Hello. Wow, I took a couple seasons off from Tier 1 Alliance War, and now I'm back, and I could not be more excited. There are only 2 wars left in this season, which is a little unfortunate on the timing, but I have joined S just for the remainder of the season, and hopefully the rest of next season as well. I was really lucky to get a spot in here from one of my friends, and I'm really excited to just be back in Tier 1 War because I love this game mode so much. So for this war, we matched up against MLA, and I got to use a bunch of champs I have not really gotten to use much in war. First off being Void, someone I ranked up pretty recently, and just haven't gotten a chance to mess around with on offense a lot. So this is Node 1 Sasquatch. I was a little worried about this just because it was rank 5 and Ascension level 2, roughly around 1.1, 1.2 million health, I think, is what I remember seeing. So I was a little worried, especially just on the fight time for this, but as you'll see by the end of it, it ended up being less than 2 minutes, which, while still not incredibly fast, is faster than I thought Void could be. So the fight ended up being perfectly fine. There wasn't really too much to worry about. The region just gets canceled out through Despair and all the debuffs Void has. Obviously, you can't reverse Sassy's regen rate, so just stopping the regen altogether is what's important. And yeah, so now he's triggered Wrath, and I just kind of have to play around the Unstoppable a little bit, which isn't too bad. I'm pretty familiar with fighting Sasquatch just from using Spidey 2099 a lot, so this champ is Void's a little slower than champs I'm used to playing, but it was fun to get to use him. So this I was a little worried about just getting backed into the corner because the SB2 pushes Sasquatch across the screen just so much. But luckily I didn't get backed up while he was in Wrath, and just I didn't want to take a ton of block damage, so I was also a little worried about Mystic Dispersion here as well, and then I remembered just the Fear of the Void and the Petrifies will just reverse all that, so there ended up being almost nothing to worry about here whatsoever. Just get a little opening there with the Relic, and he should go down just after, yeah, just one little combo right there. Next up is Node 10's Spot. I've taken this before with Lumatrix a lot, and it's not very bad. I was assigned Bong for this, who is absolutely busted for this tactic, but I wasn't given a Wags here, which I was a little concerned about. So I asked a friend of mine, and the advice I was given was to parry to trigger the Masochism, and then throw the SP1 from there. That way, the Masochism is on cooldown, you can apply your Panic, and then once Spot throws SP1, you ideally want the cooldown to still be active, that way he will trigger his buff immunity and remove his own regen. So that was the strategy I employed in this fight, and it ended up working really well. Bong is super fun, and as I said, he's incredibly busted for this tactic, and for this node, it ended up working out really well. The regen was a little annoying to deal with, but it ended up not being too big a deal. Bong just has so much damage, and Spot really isn't all too threatening, especially when you can turn off everything he has. You can counter the miss, and Bong just purifies every debuff because of the increased combo gain through the tactics. So this fight ended up being way worse in my head than I imagined it would be. But I had a couple of videos from friends, and that ended up helping out a lot. So this champ is incredibly busted, and I was contemplating taking him to rank 5, but I ended up going with a different skill champ instead. But maybe in the future I may end up ranking Bong to rank 5, just because he seems like he's incredibly useful for war. But yeah, just probably 1 or 2 more heavies should close out this fight. And probably just 1 heavy right there, and yeah, that's it. Next up, this is node 26 MODOK with Force of Will. So the only thing I had to worry about here was just I wanted to alternate combos just because I didn't want to push him to an SP3. That was really the only thing I was worried about in this fight. I can dex both of his other specials pretty comfortably, so I wasn't too worried about that. I was just worried, okay, well, maybe not that comfortably, but I just didn't want to bait an SP3 is all. So you can Bong just, get parried, and it doesn't really matter too much. So there was not a ton to worry about here, other than just don't trigger the intensifies too much. So, but yeah, I'm pretty comfortable with the SP2 decks. So it was just a matter of just getting him down eventually and just watching the power gain. So not a very tricky fight. Originally, I guess I misread my planner's plan, and I initially thought this was node 27, so I just figured I could parry in heavy the entire time. And the next fight, I assumed that was on node 36, and because I misread that, I did not realize I'd be fighting a Super-Skrull on node 35 here in a minute, which ended up scaring me quite a lot more than I thought it would. So MODOK goes down. Now, this is what I was worried about. Node 35 Super-Skrull. This is the node Carolina Dean is typically on. And at first I was not super concerned. And then when I started to think about it more, Madelyne Pryor places those misery buffs on her own. And that kind of fuels the overwhelming odds node here. So I did not think about that too much. So one thing that tripped me up in this fight is the falter. You'll see here that I go for the heavy, I go for a punish in the heavy, and you'll see again later that when trying to punish his heavy, I hit into the falter and things go poorly. Because of overwhelming odds and just the furies he's getting on through his base kit, Skrull does so much block damage on this node, and my force field is pretty much gone immediately. Yeah, I believe it's right around here. You'll see the falter triggers, Skrull throws his heavy, and I just eat the entire heavy. And I started to panic so much, so I instantly threw the relic and just went for the SP2, just hoping that the degens will just tick him down, and he ends up going down. So a little scary there towards the end, but ended up being fine. And then the last fight I got for this war was node 39 Destroyer, something I'm also pretty comfortable taking with Spider-Man 2099. But again, this is a fight that is much slower with Void, but is very much so doable. So what I gathered from this fight was I wanted to just shout out to one of my friends, Titan, who she suggested to play this fight by dexing just to gain the rich get richer, and then just keep throwing SP1s as much as I can. I didn't realize how much of a pain dexing Destroyers heavy in the corner would be in this fight. Because you pretty much play this entire fight in the corner, which I was not super comfortable with. But he does go down eventually. I have not really had much experience in War playing Void, and there's a lot of corner play in some of these fights, which is something I really need to get better at. As you can see, I'm just eating heavy after heavy, but Void has, for some weird reason, Void has quite a lot of HP, so, and there I just eat a full combo, but I'm gaining power really easily just by dexing and just sitting in the corner, so I'm easily able to cycle SP1s. So, worst case scenario, if Destroyer somehow does start to gain power, I have the Fear of the Void and the Petrifies to prevent that. But really, he can't do much in this fight. See, even when he does gain power from Footloose, it just all goes away. So, I started to freak out a little bit just because I keep getting walloped and just, I can't dex the heavies fully or anything. But, it's not too bad, and Destroyer ends up going down.